The U.S. Supreme Court reinstates the Biden administration's immigration enforcement guidelines. In an 8-1 ruling on Friday, the U.S. Supreme Court decided that Texas and Louisiana lacked standing to challenge the federal government's guidelines dictating which unauthorized immigrants should be prioritized for arrest and deportation. Republican leaders in Texas and Louisiana challenged the policy in federal court last summer, arguing that it limited ICE agents from fully enforcing immigration laws. The policy represents a departure from former President Donald Trump's hardline approach, which encouraged arrests of anyone in the U.S. without authorization. The guidelines issued in a 2021 memo from the Biden administration instructed Immigration and Customs Enforcement to prioritize arrests of immigrants with serious criminal records, were threats to national security, or had recently entered the country illegally. Given limited and strained government resources, the Biden administration has emphasized that it wants to be intentional about who is detained and deported. The Supreme Court's ruling is a victory for the Biden administration, which has been trying to shift the focus of immigration enforcement to prioritizing the arrest of those who pose the most significant risk to national security or public safety. And I want to go back to my panel with this. And Matt, I want to start with you because you are in Texas, and Texas was one of the states involved in this lawsuit, plaintiffs in this lawsuit. We see a distinction between the Biden administration and the Trump administration. We see under the Trump administration a demonization of undocumented immigrants and sometimes immigrants in general, especially those coming from African nations. And we see a change in the prioritization of who they focus on deporting. So what is your take as a Texan? What is your take on this U.S. Supreme Court decision?
So first, I don't have much confidence, unfortunately, these days in the Supreme Court and some of the decisions that they're making. But this one, I'm very happy that they made this decision. And I think the word choice that you made there was particularly astute, demonization, because that's really what we see as it relates to immigration. And that is really kind of part and parcel with a larger Republican policy that you see taking shape in Texas and in other states around the country, where they are trying to demonize the idea that law enforcement and prosecutors are not prosecuting every single crime, and somehow that is tantamount to weak public safety, right? The reality is ICE has 6,000 agents. Sounds like a lot of people, but this country has 330 plus million people in it. 6,000 agents have a finite body of resources, and it's just a waste for them to be trying to deport every single person who's undocumented. And beyond that, the reality is, the elephant in the room is that in Texas and in a lot of southern states and a lot of places around the country, people don't really have issues with immigration if that keeps the cost of their food on their table lower, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's just the reality of it, right? People act like they really have this issue with immigrants, particularly here in Texas. I've known incredibly conservative people who say, oh, I don't agree with political immigration, but, when I got to build a fence, who I'm going to hire. And that's the kind of dishonesty that we see as it relates to immigration policy. So I'm glad that the Supreme Court not only knocked it down, but that the Supreme Court was very strong, Justice Kavanaugh, in his opinion, in saying, look, first, the executive branch is the one who has the right to decide these rules, essentially. So this is a constitutional question, right? Does the federal judiciary determine this, or does the executive branch? And they said pretty unequivocally the executive branch does. And on top of that, they also said there's no precedent for us basically curtailing the executive branch's authority in this context. And that's important because what he said in his opinion is exactly what would have happened. Had they ruled the other way, you would have seen Republicans start attacking other things, saying, well, Biden doesn't have the power to do that, so he doesn't have the power to do this. He can't institute rules in this way. He can't institute rules through this bureau. And before you know it, the administration is mired in litigation where everything that they try to do is, fought. And it's really for a political point. It's not because there's really any truth behind it. It's because the talking point is public safety, crime. These immigrants are coming to steal your women and children and all of your possessions, right? So I'm glad that they made this decision. And particularly in Texas, we have that dishonesty, and in the South, that dishonesty about immigrants and the truth of the larger part of the undocumented population, which is wholly not criminal and not out here committing, heinous crimes. So this is good because this allows ICE to prioritize those that we know to be violent. And the last addendum to that is that's exactly the policy that we see them attacking prosecutors on here. The idea that prosecutors are not enforcing every single case. And what prosecutors are saying is, I have a finite body of resources. Wouldn't you rather me keep the murderer off the street as opposed to this petty criminal? And this is the same principle, right? Go after the bad people. Don't go after the people who are undocumented purely because they're undocumented. So I think this is helpful, and I think this puts us right in the right direction.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Matt. And as I've said here on this show before, all those who are against undocumented immigration, the best thing that you could do is don't eat food that you did not grow yourself if you want to fight undocumented immigration. So Kelly, what are your thoughts on that? You're in Washington, D.C., and what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I just find it, just from a legal perspective, very interesting as to their rationale regarding this, right? Because since this court has been, mostly conservative, we've been seeing this tendency for states to have more rights per se. Like we saw that in Dobbs, we saw that with the Voting Rights Act case, not this one that just passed this session, but the previous one. So it's interesting to me what exactly they want the federal government to oversee and what they want the states to keep or to take, rather. Like, what exactly are states' rights? What exactly are federal rights? And it appears that if the federal side of things if it already exists within the federal side, then they kind of don't want to mess with it, and they don't necessarily want to rock those waters. But if the states want to do something such as, like with the abortion case and the like, it just feels more politicized to me. I don't know exactly how to describe it. Like the ruling makes sense, even though it's 8-1. I find that fascinating, but I want to figure out why I feel like it's a little hypocritical at the same time.
Okay.
It's hard for me to describe at the moment, but it's like I'm looking at what he said, what Kavanaugh said. He's saying if the court greenlighted this suit, we could anticipate complaints in future years about alleged executive branch under enforcement, and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, well, okay. Maybe it's just because it's a law enforcement issue and they're, pro getting bad guys off the street. I feel like if this was another situation that did not involve crime in some way, they would have ruled another way.
Right. Well, it may have something to do with the fact that three of these justices were nominated by Donald Trump, and they came from lists from the Federalist Society and the Heritage Foundation. That may have something to do. I don't know. But anyway, what I find interesting is that when Trump was running, there was all this talk about deporting 11 million undocumented immigrants. And all the Republicans knew that wasn't going to happen. Okay, first, if you want to start deporting undocumented immigrants, start with the ones that work at Donald Trump's resorts and golf clubs. Okay, you can start there, number one. Number two, it is logistically impossible to deport 11 million. One, because when you try to deport them, you're responsible for whatever happens to them. They're in your care. They're in your custody. Okay. Two, the economy will collapse if you try to do that. And what's happening now down in Florida with the law that Governor Ron DeSantis recently signed into law, and they're trying to crack down on undocumented immigrants. And then the farmers are saying we can't find people to pick the fruit and pick the vegetables and things like this. They thought it was going to be this rush of Floridians, I guess, who are white Floridians or something like that, who are going to apply for these jobs, and they're not doing it. OK, and the undocumented immigrants there or immigrants in general, they're going to other states and getting jobs there, okay, in agriculture. So one thing that I think is really important, they talked about utilizing the 6,000 ICE agents and utilizing them properly and focusing on the most heinous actors, those who are murderers, things like that. What do you take away from this in how prudent, even though they may strike down affirmative action, but how prudent this decision was when it looked at the utilizing the resources properly? I'll go to Matt with this.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm glad you asked, because I think this really is less a question of prudence and more a question of purview. Who has the purview to decide the prudent way to approach it? And here it's clearly in the executive branch. And the reason I think that's important is because our Constitution has separations in it so that certain branches have certain spheres of influence, right? And the moment you start allowing other branches to usurp that, then the way the system of government is set up is no longer functioning properly. And I do think it is prudent. I think it's prudent, especially having been a prosecutor, hearing this, decried all over the state of Texas. Law enforcement does not have unlimited resources. And let's keep it 100% real. They're not going to look for Western Europeans. They're not going to look for Brits. Right. They're not going to look for Australians. They're going to look for Guatemalans and people from Honduras, right, and Ecuador. They're not going to look for Western Europeans. And if they were, what would happen? Right, then that would be a question of, well, we don't want to have the same enforcement. We want to make sure that the Biden administration is prudent and is picking out people who are really dangerous, because this is, one, a dog whistle for racism, number one, right? And number two, this gives the administration the purview to decide the appropriate way to use those resources. As much as we talk about government waste and all these other things, it's absurd to hear this idea that you want law enforcement to pursue every single particular offense or potential offense when they've only got 6,000 agents. So I think this gives the Biden administration the latitude to do what makes sense. And that is what the Constitution requires. And unfortunately, we don't see the Supreme Court towing that line in every case, but I'm glad that they did here, because I think that that's what the law and that's what our system of government supports.
All right. Well, we're going to leave it right there. And Roland Martin Unfiltered will be right back after this break. When we come back, we'll talk about President Biden is going to sign an executive order protecting birth control access. You're watching the Black Star Network. This is Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Class number 1 starts up Saturday, June 24th, 2023. Register right now. Visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. So when you visit our website, you scroll down the page, you'll see the information for our Sunday night radio show, the African History Network show, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF, and we broadcast on our social media platforms. You see our PayPal, Cash App information here as well. And then 12-week online course. So we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. This class is on sale $80, regularly $130. You can register for the full 12-week online course here. When you click on that link, it takes you to the next page. And on the next page, just click on enroll. Right here, the purple button, enroll. As soon as you register, you can start watching the content, okay? And we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch this anytime. A year from now, 2 years from now, you can go back and watch the entire class. You don't have to be in class live or don't take attendance, anything like that. We have a live text chat also. In class, you can see me. I can't see you. We have a live text chat, so you can ask questions in class as well. Okay. And we have a bundle pack where you get this class and the second class that I teach, Black resistance movements from the Haitian Revolution, U.S. Civil War, Civil Rights Movement, and Black Power Movement, 1800 to 1968. I teach that class on Sundays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that class, we deal with so much history. We deal with that crucial period of time leading up to the Civil War, and after slavery ends in the Reconstruction era, Jim Crow era, Great Migration, World War I, World War II, Civil Rights Movement, Black Power movement, to understand what happened to us after slavery ended, what were the laws and policies put in place to put us where we are, to bring us to where we are today, to understand where we need to go from here. So your understanding of politics, and politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Your understanding of politics is directly related to your understanding of history. So the more you understand history, the better you understand politics, the better we understand how all these policies impact us and how to engage in politics. And this is why you hear me say we have to stop telling African Americans to exercise your right to vote. You don't vote for exercise. If you want to exercise, you go to the gym and work out. You vote for power. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. So we have to understand history, economics, law, and politics to be able to put together agendas, to be able to organize and force our agenda and get policies put in place that are beneficial to African Americans, and what's good for African Americans are good for America in general. All right, so visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. You can register for this class. Class number 1 is Saturday, June 24th. Class number 2 is Saturday, July 1st. Class number 3 is Saturday, July 8th. And this is 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the link for the class in the thread of the broadcast. You can register right now. We have bonus content already uploaded that you can start watching, and you'll also get 5 of my lectures free included with the registration of this course. They will be in the video library, so you can stream 5 of my lectures also. If you want to support the African History Network, and if you if you want to pay through Cash App, you can do so right through our website. Right on the homepage of our website, our Cash App information is there. $ the AHN show through Cash App, or through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. And this is our Cash App account. And we have the link on the homepage of our website because there's some fake African History Network Cash App accounts out there. And I'm still trying to get them shut down. So when you scroll down our website, we have our Cash App information. Click right here, and takes you to our Cash App link. It's $ the AHN show, SHOW. And when you go to it, it will say Michael also. So we have that there, and our PayPal information is here as well. PayPal.me/the AHN show. All right. So we'll hope to see you in class this Saturday. Remember, right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace.